Welcome to the earthvox podcast. The earthvox podcast. earthvox podcast.
And we're live. It's June 29th, 11:01. Oh, it just ticked over. I was ready early, I promise. Hey, there's the stream. That's cool. I think everything sounds good. I ran a, oh, I gotta switch it over so you can see me. See, this always happens. I deviate from my routine and then something gets screwed up. But I had to run an update on my OBS and it forced me to restart my machine. And even though that is supposed to like fix everything, oftentimes it creates a lot of problems. But holy smokes, there is a bunch to get into. I feel like I've limited myself pretty well so that I don't end up trying to power through everything and missing some of the finer details and perspectives that I write down. I mean, I have extensive notes today. We'll see how it goes. There's a weird element to creating a show, especially a show that you are doing by yourself, as I am, where you want to stick to your notes. But I mean, I want to stick to my notes. I spent all week getting them together, but then also I want to be spontaneous and I want to talk about stuff that pops into my mind. Like I just was noticing earlier this morning, as I had put the finishing touches on my notes and got my stream all ready to go and everything, I was about 15 minutes early, which is not the norm. Usually I'm like, oh, it's 10:58, hurry up, get everything together. What are you forgetting? Oh, the microphone's not working. Freak out. But not so. I had about 15 minutes, so I start scrolling. I mean, and accidentally, do you ever realize that you fall into this? Like you just open up your phone and you hit the Facebook app. I mean, that hasn't happened to me for a long time because I quit Facebook. But I noticed for a while, I mean, probably 10 years ago now, that I would grab my phone, open it up, and instinctively just open my Facebook app. Like, well, wait a minute, that's not even why I opened my phone. So now I'm scrolling through X videos usually because I try to support X, even though sometimes I'm not entirely sure why, to be honest. I find myself feeling like, nah, I just want to sit here and do this now. I don't want to do anything else. I just want to scroll my video feed. And I wonder how many other people experience that sensation and how much productivity these kind of useless, like it's like a pure pleasure activity, right? Just like video games or watching TV. I'm sure there are benefits to some things, like you see videos that educate you. Oh, wow, I didn't know this thing was a thing. I didn't know the kookaburra bird made that kind of sound. I was showing my daughters this morning. This is the sound of a kookaburra. If you heard this sound and you were walking through the forest, would you be scared? Oh, yes, but it's just, you know, it's whatever. You learn new things. You play video games, you develop strategy and hand-eye coordination and problem solving, but there's no real productivity to it. And I think I've said it before, that's why games like SimCity and Civilization and Age of Empires, these strategy civilization building games, or even like survival craft games like Minecraft, they satisfy this center of your brain that craves creation and productivity, even though you're not really doing anything. Sure, it's fun and it's your free time. You can do what you want, but I think increasingly, for more and more people, you're living in your mom's basement, playing video games all day, and satisfying your sort of primal urge to create and be productive by playing a video game instead of setting out into the real world and getting a job and contributing to society. Fortunately, that's not the case. For most of you, I know that to be true. But enough of that. We got a lot to cover. And, well, really, as much time as I decide. See, here's the thing. I feel like an hour-long show is enough, maybe too much. And then I get into these prolonged pontifications. And I end up not getting through everything, or I go an hour and 45 minutes or 2 hours. And at some point, when I listen back through the show for quality control purposes, I think, oh, this is like, I'm lost. I'm bored listening to this. Like, move on. Or I've been listening to this for too long, and now I'm not interested in it anymore. So I spend all these time putting these notes together, and I want to be spontaneous, and then I end up leaving stuff out because I've gone on too long. I've been long-winded, and now I'm losing you. So I wanted to start today's show by asking you, if you had a neighbor, somebody that lived on your street, say, and he was always, he announced to the neighborhood that he was going to burn down your neighbor's house, and then he was going to burn down your house. And he said all the time, he was saying, death to your friends and death to you. And then you saw him building something that looked dangerous in his backyard. And you walked over and you said, howdy, neighbor, what do you got there? And he said, what? Oh, this is nothing. It is just heating my home in the winter. Oh, that looks like a flamethrower. And he says, no, it's not. It's not flamethrower. I wouldn't build a flamethrower. Don't want flamethrower. But he always made sure that you knew how much he hates you and your neighbors. And then you happen to notice he's still building something in his backyard. And when you ask him about it and tell him that you would like to take a look, he tells you to F off. But then, after he promised he wouldn't build a flamethrower, you notice he's attacking your neighbor's house, and your neighbor says he's got a flamethrower. What would you do? Would you wait for them to come and attack your house and try to set your house on fire? This is kind of the argument. I mean, maybe that's not a perfect metaphor, but this is kind of the argument that's dividing the Republican Party. And I think it's one of the indicators, one of the reasons and explanations why the Republican Party can't get anything done. They're fighting about the big, beautiful bill in the Senate right now, with all kinds of hijinks. Chuck Schumer says, now we're going to read all 980 pages of the bill because really, I just want to give Trump an L because, you know, they said they're going to get it passed by July 4th, Mike Johnson and Donald Trump. And the Senate Majority Leader probably hasn't weighed in on it because the Senate is corrupt. J.D. Vance had to show up and lay the law down because the vice president is the president of the Senate in American politics. So there's nothing really to report there. And I find it nauseating because the Democrats are always so unified. There's no infighting. There's no party. If anything, it's one person that is roundly shouted down and defunded and replaced in the next election. And this keeps all the Democrats in line. They're all fearful for the future of their political career. And while the Republicans and Donald Trump make threats of this nature, it doesn't seem to affect the way that the Republicans are voting or behaving. And even though Donald Trump won the Electoral College, he won the popular vote, he's leading in the polls. Everything that he's doing, no matter how controversial, still gets wide approval from the electorate. The politicians in Congress and the Senate still vote with their corporate overlords. But let's talk about Iran. Iran and Israel and the conflict in the Middle East, which has been going on. I mean, I asked Grok this morning, among other things, how long has conflict been going on in the Middle East? And the answer began with millennia, since like 2700 BC. People have been fighting in the Middle East. But it's been pretty much constant since 1948. Since 1948, they've been fighting in the Middle East. That's like everyone's lifetime. Like few people are alive today that haven't experienced constant conflict in the Middle East post World War II. And it's as I've said, when the Europeans redrew the boundaries, ignoring ethnic and cultural boundaries between the citizens, it fostered permanent conflict, it seems. So recently, Israel attacked Iran because Iran has been funding the militias and governments that are attacking Israel constantly, not just since October 7th. Then the United States attacked Iran under the pretense that they were allegedly close to a nuclear weapon. And we're basing this off of Israeli intelligence reports, which, I mean, let's be honest, they may be slanted one way or the other. But who are we going to trust, really? Like, I keep coming back to that. Like, I hear any of these anti-Israel, anti-Zionist people, there are many on the right, making all of these claims. And I immediately think, where do you get this information and why are you believing it? Why are you believing the things that Iran says? The regime that constantly wants us to know. We hate you, we hate your friends, we hate the West, jihad, jihad. Let's go. So after Donald Trump and the United States military bombed Iran's nuclear facilities, Iran launched a counterattack, but albeit a quite flaccid counterattack, because it was completely ineffective. This headline from Fox News: Iran attacks U.S. base in Qatar. Trump thanks Tehran for advance notice and very weak response. From the article, he's quoted, Iran has officially responded to our obliteration of their nuclear facilities with a very weak response, which we expected, and have very effectively countered. There have been 14 missiles fired, 13 were knocked down, and one was, quote, set free because it was heading in a non-threatening direction, Trump wrote on Truth Social. A U.S. defense official told Fox News Digital Iran had used short-range and medium-range ballistic missiles to attack Al Udeid base, but no casualties had been reported. Iran has, quote, gotten it all out of their system, and there will hopefully be no further hate, Trump predicted, thanking Iran for giving the U.S. early warning of the attack to minimize casualties. So I think what really happened is that Iran and Qatar are closely, I wouldn't say closely allied, and even less now probably that Trump has taken office, because as we covered previously, Qatar made huge investments or huge commitments, I should say, to invest in the United States. So Iran told Qatar, hey, we're going to attack that base. And Qatar took out all the missiles for us. Well done, Qatar. But it does seem a little bit suspicious. And maybe it's just, I wanted to share these headlines from the Tehran Times. It's pretty comical. I have them here, but they look weird because they were screenshots on my phone. And even though they're synced to my machine I'm using now for this stream, it's not nice. It's not pretty. But they read. Uh-oh. I just closed it. Idiot. Here we go. Just a few headlines from TehranTimes.com. Iran's swift response. Forced enemy to end hostilities. Supreme National Security Council says. That's from June 24th. Then further, herald of victory. Iran hits biggest U.S. base in West Asia. They're talking about the Al Udeid base that they just, with the subline, Iran targeted the biggest U.S. base in West Asia on Monday, firing the same number of missiles American forces used on Iran's nuclear sites over the weekend to hit the Al Udeid air base in the Persian Gulf country of Qatar, according to a statement by Iran's Supreme National Security Council. With another headline reading, Iran's heroism and courage blast Trump's boast. So this is the kind of information that's coming out of Iran. And for some reason, this is the information that's people that claim to love the United States are referring to when they try to trash the moves that the United States has made. Make it make sense. And it's been reported now, along the same lines, for the same purposes, that maybe we didn't, after all, completely obliterate Iran's nuclear program, but set it back just a few months. And I mean, something's better than nothing, right? But I don't believe that Iran doesn't want a nuclear weapon. I think they did want a nuclear weapon. I think that's why they were uncooperative. I think that's why they didn't follow along with the terms of the nuclear deal. They've been in constant violation. Why doesn't the mainstream media report these things? I got a nice answer from Grok. I also fact-checked, cross-referenced, as if Grok is getting its information from somewhere else. But I asked, what were some of the ways Iran obstructed investigations and inspections of their nuclear program following Obama's nuclear deal? They restricted IAEA access, which is the Iranian, you know what, let's find out. I read it, but I don't remember what it means. It's escaping me. There we go. International Atomic Energy Agency. That is what it stands for. Maybe I didn't look it up. That sounds very foreign to me. I thought it was Israeli or Iranian, but no, it's International Atomic Energy Agency. They restricted their access. Iran limited or delayed inspectors' access to key nuclear sites, including Fort Al. That was the one that was built inside the mountain, 300 feet down, safe from America's bunker-busting bombs, allegedly. And sometimes denied entry to undeclared facilities. Undeclared facilities. That's a nice way of saying secret facilities. Yeah, see, Grok is not our friend, unfortunately. Non-compliance with reporting. Iran failed to report changes to its nuclear program, such as enrichment activities, violating transparency commitments, tampering with evidence. Iran erased surveillance footage and removed monitoring equipment at nuclear sites to hinder IAEA verification efforts. They engaged in uranium enrichment violations. Iran enriched uranium beyond the 3.67% limit. How do you think they agreed on that number? 3.6%. No, 3.67. I insist. Reaching up to 60% purity and expanded centrifuge operations. Come on! Breaching JCPOA restrictions. And they stonewalled investigations. Iran refused to cooperate fully with IAEA probes into undeclared nuclear activities and materials stalling investigations into possible military dimensions. These actions, especially after the U.S. withdrawal from the nuclear agreement in 2018, undermined the deal's monitoring framework. But it wasn't just it wasn't just between America and Iran. And I think we covered last week, Donald Trump and the rest of the G7 came out of their most recent meeting all agreeing that Iran shouldn't have a nuclear weapon. This article from Reuters. This was my cross-referencing from June 6, 2024. Europeans detail Iran's nuclear violations in diplomatic gambit. So how in the world, given all of this information, how could you come out and say with a straight face that Iran doesn't want a nuclear weapon? Like, how could you honestly say that? They're hiding. They're hiding everything. They're being sneaky. They're obstructing investigations. And you take this to mean that, in fact, they are not trying to create a nuclear. I mean, they're definitely not trying to be transparent, which was the point of the agreement to begin with. From CNN World on June 12th, the headline: Iran threatens nuclear escalation after UN watchdog board finds it in breach of obligations. Now, I'll admit, I don't know where they're getting this information. I doubt they're getting it from Iran, though. Iran's coming out and saying, yeah, we're in breach of our obligations, but it's all good. We don't want a nuclear bomb. We promise. We promise, guys. We don't really want one. So we dropped bombs on their lying asses because, we spend $1 trillion, almost $1 trillion on our military program. If nothing else, could we maybe use that to stop the bad guys? And could we, this is all in another section of my notes. So after we dropped the bombs, there was this DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency. They came out with this report that said, oh, actually, this strike wasn't, how did I close everything? Come on. This is what happens. You see what happens, Larry? This is what happens when I update Google Chrome and I update I update OBS. Everything just falls to pieces. It's a beautiful thing. I also have weird mouse problems because I think also that there's like a compatibility issue. I feel like, I'm no fan of government regulations, but I think one of the things that the government has done that has positively impacted my life is force Apple to not be so shisty when it comes to their peripherals and their charging cables and all of that nonsense. Like, remember however long ago, I think it was actually Obama that did these things, created these regulations. And I never really hated Obama as much as everybody else hated him, at least initially. Like, a lot of people suggest that Obama did all of these terrible things that have created the problems that we're experiencing now. This may be true. I know the Smith Modernization Act that made it legal to create propaganda for use on the American people by American intelligence agencies, that used to be illegal. No longer under Barack Obama. Allegedly, this is what I've heard. So the Defense Department, the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, released this preliminary report. And the headline from Fortune: Defense Department intelligence report suggests U.S. strikes only set back Iran's nuclear program by a few months, just a few months. You know, I think I'm actually good with that. That really doesn't bother me all that much, because a few months is better than a few weeks, a few days. And I mean, this is what they were telling us. This is what they were telling us. And you know what, because it's been reported this week that Mossad, that's Israeli intelligence, had people on the ground, spies. They had spies in Iran and had spies in Iran for 15 years. I think that lends credibility to their argument that they know what's going on. That lends credibility to their intelligence. And what do? Do you go, I don't think I believe you. I don't think I believe you, Israel. America's greatest ally. Allegedly. I had to get a drink out of my jar of water. check out the video on YouTube, Twitch, and Rumble, and X if you like. The audio version also available after the stream, shortly after the stream, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and wherever you enjoy your audio-only podcasts. Again, I come back to, who are we going to believe? And also, what's the motivation for for dragging our feet and allowing Iran to maybe achieve a nuclear device? And if they didn't want us to drop 30,000-pound bombs on their facilities, maybe quit being so shisty. Maybe let us come take a look. What about that? What a novel concept. I mean, this is the behavior of people that have things to hide. If you don't have anything to hide, let us come in there. I hate that argument. I really do. I really hate that argument. But there's so many other elements that go into that. Like, hey, how about you quit talking shit? I mean, you're going to tell us over and over again that you hate us. We're the great Satan. You want to kill us. You want to kill the little Satan, which is Israel. And we're just meant to go, it's fine. It's fine. But the deep state, the haters, let's just call them the haters, roll out and say, nah, actually wasn't that good. Wasn't that good. Trump doesn't know what he's doing. He did a bad job. He did a bad job. Why? Because they hate Trump. And by proxy, I think that means that they hate us. Well, then we have this report from Fox News. Okay, sure, maybe that's a little bit slanted, but I got more. Iran, get this headline. Iran, Israel, and U.S. agree that Islamic Republic nuclear sites were badly damaged, despite leaked intel reports. And I'm just going to play it now. I have from Carolyn Levitt. This has got to be it. No. Oh, this is Hegseth. This is a good one, though. Let's listen to Hegseth.
Did you not have a public component to your Zelensky meeting for a tactical reason?
So Donald
with
Trump,
President Putin?
Come on. Donald Trump walks off in the midst of the question, because you may have noticed, if you've been following any of this over the last week, Donald Trump says a little bit irritated. He's a little bit irritated about all of the things that are going on, especially the media's position and these fake reports coming out saying that they failed. So while this reporter is asking the question, he walks away from the microphone and lets Pete Hegseth take the podium.
And sir, did you not have a public component to your Zelensky meeting for a tactical reason with President Putin?
Let him answer.
Hello, Mr. Secretary.
Yeah. There's a reason the president calls out fake news for what it is. These pilots, these refuelers, these fighters, these air defenders, the skill and the courage it took to go into enemy territory flying 36 hours on behalf of the American people and the world to take out a nuclear program is beyond what anyone in this audience can fathom. And then the instinct of CNN, the instinct of the New York Times is to try to find a way to spin it for their own political reasons, to try to hurt President Trump or our country. They don't care what the troops think. They don't care what the world thinks. They want to spin it to try to make him look bad based on a leak. Of course, we've all seen plenty of leakers. And what do leakers do? They have agendas. And what do? Do they share the whole information or just the part that they want to introduce? And when they introduce that preliminary, a preliminary report that's deemed to be a low assessment, you know what a low assessment means? Low confidence in the data in that report. And why is there low confidence? Because all of the evidence of what was just bombed by 12 30,000-pound bombs is buried under a mountain, devastated and obliterated. So if you want to make an assessment of what happened at Fordo, you better get a big shovel and go really deep, because Iran's nuclear program is obliterated. And somebody somewhere is trying to leak something to say, oh, with low confidence, we think maybe it's moderate. Those that drop the bombs precisely in the right place know exactly what happened when that exploded. And you know who else knows? Iran. That's why they came to the table right away, because their nuclear capabilities have been set back beyond what they thought were possible because of the courage of a commander-in-chief who led our troops, despite what the fake news wants to say.
But you're not disputing the report said what it said, even though it was initial.
The report said what it said, and it was fine. It was severe, they think, but they had no idea. They shouldn't have issued a report until they did, but we've gotten the information. I think Pete said it better than you can say it. And, you know, you should be proud, you, especially you, should be proud of those pilots, and you shouldn't be trying to demean them.
No, there's
Those pilots flew at great risk, a big chance that they'd never come back home and see their husbands or their wives. Let me just tell you, you and NBC, fake news, which is one of the worst, and CNN, New York Times, are all bad. They're sick. There's something wrong with them. You know what? You should be praising those people instead of trying to find some. By getting me, by trying to go and get me, you're hurting those people. They were devastated. You know, I got a call from Missouri, great state, and I won 3 times by a lot. And I got a call that the pilots and the people on the plane were devastated because they were trying to minimize the attack. And they all said it was hit. But we don't think it was really maybe hit that badly. And they were devastated. They put their lives on the line, and then they have, and I'm not referring to you, but real scum come out and write reports that are as negative as they could possibly be. It should be the opposite. You should make them heroes and heroines. You should make them really people that they were so devastated when they heard this news. And you know what they said? One of them, I spoke to one of them, said, "Sir, we hit the site. It was perfect. It was dead on." Because they don't understand fake news, because they have a normal life, except they have to fly very big, very fast planes. But it's a shame. You should be making them heroes. All right.
When he talks about scum, he's talking about the people in the Defense Intelligence Agency that wrote the initial report and then leaked just small parts. They didn't leak the entire report, as it's been reported. I think this is what Carolyn Levitt brings up in her statement with Fox News here. But it has been widely reported that it was only the worst parts of the report. Parts that would cast the most pessimistic light on the operation.
This was a low confidence preliminary intelligence assessment. The assessment itself said that it was not corroborated by anyone else in the intelligence community. And it has been disputed by not just the United States, the president, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, our Joint Chiefs, and our General Kane, who was incredibly successful in this mission on Saturday night. It was also disputed by both Israel and Iran. And CNN didn't care about that. The DIA themselves have now come out and said, this was a preliminary report, and this CNN story got it completely wrong. But that reporter is a sheep, and she's a mouthpiece for people who don't like Donald Trump. And she only gave the White House an hour to respond. And that's, again, the same playbook we've seen the fake news media play time and time again. But this story has now been debunked widely by not just the United States, but also Iran and Israel as well.
Well, now now CNN has come out and basically, would you call it retracted or clarified what actually happened. And I apologize, the audio quality on this clip is not the best, but it's not my fault.
What we now know from that briefing, first time we know it, is that as it was designed, as these massive ordnance penetrators with significant computer software engineering went directly down to those 3 ventilator shafts, specifically as designed. And until you actually do it, you never know if it's going to work. It worked. It seems to have worked flawlessly. That is very important information. He also pointed out some things we take for granted. You know, a Patriot interceptor is traveling at 3,000 miles an hour, about Mach 4, to hit a ballistic missile, traveling at about 6,000 miles an hour, Mach 8. This is really difficult. We take for granted how this stuff all works. I thought that was very important to lay out. So as I come out of this briefing, I now know BDA level 2, as I mentioned. Level 1, first 24 hours, you're looking at imagery. Level 2, did the ordnance work? Did everything go as we had wanted? The answer now is yes. And we're now in the phase of level 3, collecting all sources of information, and then putting that together with nuclear experts to determine if they have these pieces and parts here, could they reconstitute them? With some political analysts to say, would the Iranians do that? What would be the restraints? To then have a comprehensive assessment of where we are. With the objective being, Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, and its enrichment program has to be completely destroyed. I think from what I've seen, the 20,000 centrifuges, you had about 17,000 in the Natanz, about 3,000 in Fordo, they are all completely destroyed. I am very confident those centrifuges are gone. The Israelis destroyed the centrifuge manufacturing production facilities that we know of. Isfahan, which is the conversion facility, key part of the fuel cycle, also appears to have been destroyed. So if you add it up from what we're seeing, massive catastrophic setback for Iran's program. The term of art, obliterated, destroyed, I kind of step out of that. This is an analytical process. It's important for the professionals now in the intelligence community to be able to do their work without political pressure and come out with their assessments. And we'll know soon enough. There's a lot of work going on here from U.S. intelligence agencies, from Mossad and the Israelis, from other partners. But I thought that briefing was important. We now know that operation that was developed over multiple administrations worked exactly as it was designed. So I didn't know that. I couldn't have confirmed that 24 hours ago. I now know those 3 ventilators, they went down there and it worked. That's new. And that means probably Fordo is rendered inoperable for the foreseeable future, probably forever.
Because they got to dig it out, just like Hegseth said. They got to dig it out from under the mountain. And really, I don't know where people are getting this idea that, like, Trump doesn't care what happens. He's just firing from the hip. He doesn't, like, no, Trump's got an ego. I think we should kind of be grateful for that. It's definitely a two-edged sword. But do you think, I mean, like, why do these people think that Trump would put himself in a position to be embarrassed? He knows they're going to roll out and try to embarrass him anyway, as they did, as I just showed you. But if it's actually a failure, then he looks like a schmuck. When the evidence actually comes out that it was a success, that they accomplished exactly what they wanted to accomplish, they dropped those 30,000 bombs down the ventilation shafts of these places because they knew they were deep and they wanted to get as much penetration as possible to do maximum damage. Then the scum in the Defense Intelligence Agency writes this, well, leaks this suspicious report that's not really based on anything to try to hurt the Trump administration, to try to hurt the reputation of the United States, which by proxy is your reputation. And what should we do aside from that? All of these haters. And I'm not talking about the people like Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene that really just want to put America first and don't want more American people to die in another war in the Middle East. I'm in that camp. I'm one of those guys. I'm talking about the really gross warmonger, bloodthirsty people that want this attack to be a failure to justify further military involvement, more boots on the ground. No, we got to go in. We got to send the boys in and make sure that it was actually destroyed. We need a full-blown war. Is that what we want? Or should we maybe just drop some big bombs that are expensive? By the way, this stuff just comes to me. It's not that I'm unprepared, but I really want to know, what does an MOP bomb cost the American taxpayers? Let's see what Google's AI has to say. The initial development costs of the MOP was estimated to be around $400 million. Upgrades to the bomb have pushed the total program spending, this is total program spending, to $500 million. It doesn't tell me how long this has been going on. But each MOP bomb is estimated to cost around $3.5 million to manufacture. And a 2011 contract for 8 MOPs plus supporting equipment cost $28 million. I got you. That seems good. Seems good. 3.5 million. 3.5 million to take out some critical infrastructure that they're using to, the centrifuges they were using to enrich the uranium to 60%, 70%, 80%, 90%, which is where it gets, I mean, I've heard recently that even at 60% enrichment, they can still make a weapon with it, a dirty bomb, to wreak havoc, create nuclear fallout. Then there were initial reports also that there was some amount of uranium that was missing, which was just really, I mean, as far as I can tell, it was just seeded into the public as propaganda to scare people. You should be very mad at the behavior of these people. And Donald Trump is very mad. And if you haven't heard it by now, you're about to hear it. Because he responded to the press, he responded to the ceasefire, because yes, we have a ceasefire now. Isn't it funny how that works? We drop 500,000 pounds of bombs on Iran, and then they want to have a ceasefire. And Israel wanted to have a ceasefire. But it unfortunately got off to a little bit of a rocky start, which pissed our president off even more. And he had this to say outside Marine One, which is the helicopter.
Israel says that Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
There it is. He's pissed. He's pissed at Israel. He's pissed at Iran. Rightfully so. I mean, this is what happened. I'm sorry the volume on that was kind of low if you're watching the stream. If you're listening to it on audio, it's been doctored and it sounds perfect. You're welcome. As soon as they made the ceasefire agreement, it was agreed upon, I believe, 12 hours. We're going to ceasefire in 12 hours. That gives you time to get your infrastructure packed up, put away, get your boys out of danger. It gives you time to get the message out to all of your fighters. So if anything happens in this 12-hour period, we can just blame it on the miscommunication. So Israel decides we're going to pack up all these bombs and drop as many as we can. Basically treating the ceasefire as if we have a 12-hour window to do as much damage as possible, when that's not the agreement. That's not the purpose of the ceasefire. So Trump was mad. And doesn't that make you feel good? Like, don't you feel good that we have a president that rages out when these people do stupid things, when these people can't, for 70 years, can't stop killing each other, can't stop fighting over holy wars? I mean, if nothing else, these countries really need to stop making threats. They need to stop talking shit. And we probably also need to change our behavior somewhat, also in this country and in the West in general. Maybe we could stop spreading democracy, as they like to say. But the idea of a holy war really is pathetic. Am I wrong to feel like we should just end the threat completely? I mean, what's the argument against it? Oh, wait, what? Perpetual war forever? If we keep stoking the fires of holy war in the Muslim community? Oh. Is that why the idea of attacking our enemies so decisively and consequentially becomes so polarizing? Huh. Is that why they carved up the borders in the Middle East the way they did in 1948 after World War II? Perpetual war forever. Find massive economic boon for the military industrial complex and the healthcare industrial complex that provides the weapons of war and death. And then also the treatments and medicines for curing all of the people that go and die. Maybe that's why it's become such a polarizing issue. I don't carpet bombing the jihadis probably won't stop people from being jihadis. I mean, that's one of the arguments that the people always make. You kill the parents of the children are going to grow up and want to kill you. I mean, it seems like how do you solve it? You have to draw the line somewhere. And as I said, if we spend $1 trillion a year on our military program, some of it should probably be used eliminating these threats. And if you don't want to be eliminated, maybe stop talking about how you want to kill us all the time and kill our friends all the time and make bigger and bigger bombs so that you can blow us up all the time. I mean, would they respond if they had the opportunity to wipe the West completely off of the map permanently and have a global caliphate, which I think they talk about? Would they do it? Would they restrain? Like, what would the voice of reason be for the Ayatollahs and the Islamic Caliphate? Nah, we should let them be our slaves, wait on us hand and foot. What do you think their response would be? Do you know how long? This just popped into my head when I was doing this research and making my notes. $1 trillion we spend on our military, allegedly for the purpose of keeping us safe from these jihadis that want to wipe us off the map. You know how long your family could live on $1 trillion? Through your lifetime, for sure. And I asked Grok to do the math because math is not my strong suit. And he gave me two numbers because I basically asked him, my bloodline? How long could my bloodline, how long could I live? How long could my children live? How long could my children's live? And on, etc. into the future. My bloodline could live for 2,500 years on $1 trillion. And we spend that on our military every single year. So let's blow up some bad guys. I guess. I don't know. I am still worried about terrorists. We know they came across the border. We know about some of them. We know that some of them came here and are still at large. They're on the loose. And almost on cue. It's crazy. It's crazy how the news cycle came together this week and how it just reinforced my belief that we're experiencing a simulation and that the real world is outside of our consciousness while we're plugged into this, whatever. I don't know. I'm not fully convinced, but man, get this. The US gets involved. They drop bombs on Iran. They create more conflict in the Middle East, briefly. And then almost as if on cue, socialist Muslim Zohran Mamdani wins the Democrat primary for mayor of New York. And it really came out of nowhere. I deleted the article from earlier in the week because it was shocking. This guy gained 30 points in the polls and then went on to unseat Andrew Cuomo, the former governor, and we'll get into him. But here is Zohran Mamdani on Meet the Press.
Questions. Let's talk about immigration, deportation. Are you committed to keeping New York as a sanctuary city?
Absolutely, because ultimately we've seen that this is a policy that has kept New Yorkers safe for decades.
Yeah, they're real safe in New York, aren't they?
A policy that had previously been defended by Democrats and Republicans alike until the fear-mongering of this current mayor.
I can't remember when Republicans were ever in favor of sanctuary cities.
And it's a policy that we've seen ensures that New Yorkers can get out of the shadows and into the full life of the city that they belong to.
The shadows, like where the criminals hide, right? The criminals and rapists and murderers.
And it's one that I will be proud to stand up for.
Well, you know, the border czar, Tom Homan, has said that he is planning to deploy ICE agents to New York, worksite enforcement to essentially increase and enhance the number of ICE agents here. If that happens on your watch, how do you plan to handle it?
We have to stand up and fight back. And we haven't seen that from our current mayor, who has instead been working with the Trump administration to assist in their goal of building the single largest deportation force in American history. I mean, we saw ICE agents arrest a migrant at Federal Plaza, and then we saw NYPD officers arresting a pastor who was peacefully observing that arrest. Those days are going to come to an end when I'm the mayor. The NYPD's job is to create public safety in the city, not to...
This is all, by the way, this is all to motivate people to self-deport. The reason that they go to Home Depot, allegedly, and arrest these illegal immigrants and deport them from Home Depot is because they want the people that aren't at Home Depot to spare themselves the humiliation of being deported from a Home Depot parking lot. The reason that all of these stories have made their way into the zeitgeist is because these people need to go. And I'm sorry that you've been here for 20 years working on a farm. We need to be going after the person that's employed that individual, because they're being exploited for cheap labor. They're getting what, $5 an hour? Maybe less? No benefits? The corporations employ these people with glee. I'm talking about the farmers and the restaurants. All of them that are complicit in this. So why does Donald Trump go and say, we're not gonna we're not going to be getting rid of the people that have been here for 20 years. No, they have a chance. They have a chance to do it the right way. And this is why. This is the reason for all this activity. So where the hell did Zohran Mamdani come from? Well, he came from Uganda.